Welcome to the PropTech podcast. It's Kylie Davis here, and I'm delighted to be your host as we explore the brave new world where technology and real estate collide. I passionately believe we need to create and grow a sense of community between the innovators and real estate agents, and sharing our stories is a great way to do that. The aim of each episode is to introduce listeners to a PropTech innovator who is pushing the boundaries of what's possible and explore the issues and challenges raised by the tech and how they can create amazing property experiences. So my guest in this episode is Patrick Hill, CEO of Realm, who many of you may know from the REI-endorsed communication app Realm. But over the past few months, Patrick has been really busy working on a second significant project, which is about introducing AI to property management with an AI called Claire, spelled C-L-A-I-R-E. So Patrick Hill, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, Patrick, we always ask everyone on the show, first up, what's your elevator spiel?
My elevator spiel is that the value of Claire is not so much in the multitude of things she can solve within a busy property management team, but in the value and the time it gives back to the individual property managers. So we're solving anywhere up to 30 to 40% of the total property management time against monotonous and painful things. You know, we take the pain away in those spaces. So
just give us a little bit of an overview on what Claire does.
Yeah, she has a number of things. She can, in modules, be switched on to do an after-hours concierge service where she answers anything from maintenance to general inquiries, and that's a conversational piece. She does rental arrears chasing, so when your rent gets behind, she'll go out and have a conversation with you about what that is and why you haven't paid and when you can pay and is there a payment plan required. And so that's a full conversational piece again, but that's outbound. She runs on email, on SMS, on Google Home, on Google Assistant, a whole lot of communication mediums. So where your tenant is, Claire is there to answer the query. So very much around supporting or being a personal assistant to the property manager to make their lives easier.
Right. So she's a personal assistant for me as a property manager. And when you say she's part of the conversational piece, she functions inside Google Home, doesn't she?
Not exclusively, no. So she works on Google Home, and that was the first release that we did. So we had Google Home and Google Assistant, and of course that's a download for iPhone users. So you don't need to have a Google Home in the home. She also works on SMS. That is, you can advertise a mobile number for her to talk to your tenants, and so the tenants can write an SMS saying, I got a broken tap, or how much rent do I owe, or any number of 50 different things. Or it could be an email. So you could ask Claire to monitor an email address, and as tenants write in and say, I've got a broken tap, can you fix it? She can go back and say, can you give me some more details, send some photos. She'll create a job, send it off to the plumber, whatever it is that needs to happen. She can automate the full work.
So she's kind of like a combination of a chatbot and a automated responder. I mean, forgive me if I'm oversimplifying, but I'm just trying to really capture what she does.
The purist inside me is screaming right now, Carla.
I know, so I'm so sorry.
I rage against the chatbot. I rage against the AI mentality. Look, she's very much machine learning. She's been trained by thousands and thousands of interactions, so it is very much machine learning. So when you say chatbot, you know, the problem with chatbots is they promise high and underdeliver because they tend to just offload the first part of the conversation. So, you know, very much, you know, what can I help you with today? Oh, I'd like to get something fixed. Okay, just give me some details and I'll hand it over to your property manager. It doesn't do that per se, like it'll do that first part, but then it goes on to clarify it and, you know, quantify it and put it into a job within the property management software and document it and then push it off to the supplier to fix the job and let the property manager know. There's a series of things that happen that aren't chatbot-esque in terms of what you see in the chatbot world today. So highly capable, machine learning orientated, and does the actual actions of the conversation. So when the tenant says, I need to get something fixed, she goes and gets it fixed for them.
Right. So what's she integrating with at the back end? What CRM is she connected to, or how is she doing those next steps after the chatbot part of it? Don't kill me. After she's clarified in whatever format that is, where did she go there?
Well, once she gets past that part of, you know, figuring out what's going on and what the end objective is, she'll then talk to Property Me, which have 2,500 agencies right now. Volt RE, which is a new entrant, really exciting new entrant to the marketplace, because they're both sales CRM as well as property management at the same time, which was headed up by the guys who started My Desktop.
Yeah, I've seen their stuff. It's very cool.
Yeah, very cool.
Shout out to the boys.
Shout out to the boys. And they're doing a really good job. So they're smart guys and they've been there before and they know what to do and that kind of stuff. And then there's Property Tree is underway, but it's been a bit of a slowed down development there, but we're just waiting on the final few endpoints from then and we'll be able to integrate with Property Tree.
Cool. So Claire is CRM agnostic. She's not a one CRM girl.
She's not a one-trick lady. She can talk to anybody. She's very social, you might say. She's capable.
That's what we like.
She likes to talk, I might say.
Yeah, fantastic. So tell me more about some of the pain that she's solving in that property management space. Like, why do we need support like Claire?
Well, I think that's, from our research that we've done, property managers are answering about 1 million emails a day in the property management space in this country.
Not one person doing 1 million. It just feels like that.
That's a lot of emails, right? And they're answering thousands. So any one property manager might do 100 emails a day, about 20,000 a year. They would be doing 7,000 phone calls a year and about 6,000 SMSs. They're doing about 20,000 property management system updates across the entire rent roll. There's a lot going on in terms of transactional, repetitive information, and that's a waste of really capable, resources for a business owner. But for the property manager, they're getting worked really hard. So the question is, what falls between the cracks? Claire is a personal assistant, so they can move from a transactional management space into more of a customer service, customer relationship space where service offerings become better and of a higher service offering. And I think that's necessary for the industry as a whole. But for a property management team, the property managers need to be retained and given, a workplace that is not so painful and difficult and cumbersome. And I think the business owner, profits are very important. And particularly Macquarie Bank is revaluing businesses not on a multitude of revenue, but on profitability, EBITDA. So, they need to look at these things to stay relevant and stay competitive and to grow efficiently, operational effectiveness. So they're all the kind of high level things. For the property manager, it's why would I chase the first 5 to 8 days of rental arrears when an AI can do it and I can spend my time on more cost effective things? Things like giving tenants the ability to talk and register and play with their property requests and needs with the communication medium that they want to bring rather than what they're imposed to do with a portal or front end, that kind of thing. And at the same time, get their needs met a day. Yeah, get their needs met 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, which means that you can have an operation that literally never sleeps and is always servicing your client and continually improving because it's AI. So there's all those benefits as well. So for the property manager, less pain, less repetition, less, of the things they don't want to do and more of the things they do want to do, which is people-oriented type stuff, presumably. And that means a transition from property managers being transactional into more customer service and people-oriented. So all the things that people should be dealing with, people deal with, and all the things that technology and AI can deal with, it does for them as well.
Yeah. So I guess part of the ROI as a principle looking at introducing some of this tech is the extraordinary turnover that we see in the property management space of girls, because like 85% of the industry are female. And that's not a made up number, that's a real number. Thanks Rockend. So we know that the majority of women are kind of doing jobs, are changing jobs in property management every 2 years because of issues like burnout, stress, and just transaction fatigue of being the bottleneck in the middle of all of that communication.
You bet. And the conflict that happens, like if you look at some of the data that came out of some government research in the industry that I looked at recently, they were saying that 80% of all property managers rate conflict resolution as a daily occurrence.
Oh, God.
That kind of conflict is not good for a human being. And so for us, the value is what we give back to the property manager. That's the real value in Claire.
So have you got some case studies or some examples that you can give us of of what it was like before Claire came on board and then what life has been like after Claire for some of your...
We do, and on a module basis, if you look at things like rental arrears, chasing, we removed about 30% of a full-time employee on a 680 strong rent roll, and out of that, reduced their total rental arrears on an average basis by 30 to 60%, depending on which one you were talking to and how much they had that process down perfectly before we started. So that's a really good win. There are other case studies that turn around and go, there's a 20% increase in sales conversion for the business development managers because they would demonstrate really high quality service as a result, which meant stickier tenants, which meant less outstanding properties for being rented. So there's those kind of case studies. And then in the first release, we had some case studies around the 10 skills that we put in, and that provided about a 15% reduction in total communication requirements by the property managers in that team. We're expecting that that's now at about 25 to 30%, although that's anecdotal at this point. We haven't done a full study on the latest release because it's fairly new.
Yep.
Email AI is coming fairly shortly, but email AI does the whole 50 workflow skills and takes care and queues up the response automatically. So that's in parallel AI working with human beings as a collective intelligence, as Sarah Bell would call it.
Yeah. Let's just pause there for a moment and hear a quick word from our sponsors. If your business is growing quickly, you need to scale your team. Beepo is an Australian outsourcing company that specialises in helping real estate and technology businesses to grow. Outsourcing is not just about bringing on staff with a lower cost base. Beepo recruits and manages staff based in the Philippines who will become full-time members of your team. They will help you identify the key skill sets, the employment history and other attributes that you need from your employees and match your requirements with the right staff. Beepo will also help you to break down your structure, job descriptions, task management and to understand how having a virtual team fits into your organisation. Done properly, outsourcing can help you understand the internal processes of your business, drive your efficiency and provide you with a roadmap for growth. So talk to Beepo and scale your business for success. So now you're a bit of a serial entrepreneur, isn't it? This isn't your first venture in prop tech. What before you were doing Claire, you were working with, well, Realm was doing more of the message app and communication app for the real estate industry. What led to the pivot, or what's the story behind the two? Are they two functioning together, or how did that work?
There are still alerts and integration with the Realm platform for Claire, and so she uses that as a communication medium because that way to be third-party integratable. The Realm platform for news and training and data updates, they were all done off the back of it's almost like a joint venture with the real estate institutes. We got together, we planned it, we understood it, and set that up and queued it as being their core communication strategy for the industry. I think that from there it was a natural extension to go to Claire because we wanted to then solve problems, not just facilitate a conversation from human to human. Rather, we wanted to create operational efficiencies and true value for growth within organisations that would take on this platform. And to be honest with you, there's offices that are getting benefit that are 50 rent roll strong, so 50 properties on their rent roll, all the way up to 3,500 at this point. So, highly scalable and not difficult to implement.
And so what made you move from Realm as the REI app towards the AI?
I think a natural extension to solve problems beyond the conversation. So, if you look at property management, the more we spoke and the more we understood the industry, the more we understood where the problems were and what the real challenges were for individuals. And me being an ex-psychologist, I wanted to solve things that were causing problems and pain points for the individuals' lives.
Yeah, and genuine pain.
Genuine pain, right? It couldn't be as lofty as this communication platform like Facebook Messenger. It had to be more than that. It had to solve genuine pain issues.
Yeah.
Feel in touch. Like as an entrepreneur, you want to know the impact beyond, the conversation.
Yeah. So you guys have recently got some funding, if you're comfortable talking about that, because it's quite a high profile investor that you've got working with you guys now.
Yeah, you bet. It's public knowledge. So that's the
Yep.
Singleton Group.
Yep.
So that was a great addition to our corporate governance and contacts and all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And that sets some extra directions for us and some extra timelines that we may not have put on ourselves so early on in the piece, but with their support and knowledge and capability and contacts, we're able to do that now.
Cool. So what does the future hold? What's your roadmap look like for the next sort of 18 months, 2 years? What are the challenges that you're going to be tackling?
Well, interestingly, a lot of the problems that we're solving within the property management space also translates to other industries. So we're looking at other verticals right now as full SaaS platforms where we're separating out, not even pivoting, just separating out the real estate industry that's tightly integrated with property management, looking at broader markets for those conversational AI pieces that we're doing for property management and has done incredibly well. And so now we can see that that can then apply to other verticals that the Singleton Group is helping us target.
Right. So what other verticals? Like, are you able to say? Or if it's secret squirrel, that's okay.
No, so I think that any industry where there's a one-to-one conversation that has to happen on scale, where there is customer service and data and accounts and those kind of things that sit behind it, they all relate perfectly to property management. So if you're talking about rental arrears, that translates to invoice chasing. And so there are so many industries that we can talk to in that space. If you're talking about solving customer queries against your account, like how much do I owe, or what's my job up to, or what am I doing next, those conversational pieces can work on virtually any scalable business, provided you've got the back end to integrate to. And Claire was written in such a way that it's a platform, not a product. So Claire, the AI, as a platform, can talk to multiple CRM or integrated API integrated backends. Claire in the center, being the AI, can adapt and train and understand all of those spaces. And the front end being, whether it's a communication across Google, Amazon Alexa, Facebook, email, SMS, you choose the communication device, we can write a front end for it.
So a couple of weeks ago, we had Sandy Moore from Our Property on the show, and he had strong views about app stacking and why he doesn't believe it works. I'm not 100% sure I completely agree with him, but what's your view on app stacking? Are you app stacking?
What's his view of app stacking? Because there's a couple of definitions of that.
Well, his view was that you can't stack lots of apps on top of each other. You actually need to almost walled garden it and build it yourself all in one platform so that you've got control over it.
I think that Salesforce would completely disagree with him on that one. I think that every product out there that has a marketplace that's successful would completely disagree. And that's from Microsoft to Salesforce to MYOB to Xero to any of these SaaS platforms that have a marketplace would completely disagree with that. I think it depends upon the apps that you're pulling together.
Yep.
So if you've got a well-written open API, like Property Me is very much in the space of, that Vault RE is absolutely in the space of, then you don't need to own the core data source in which you're integrating with. You just need to add value to the end customer, and then it becomes a multiple. If you look at trying to own the entire industry and the entire component pieces, that is, like, I own everything from the beginning when you join to the data that you hold to my trust accounting to every function throughout it. Just basic logic will tell you that you can't do everything really, really well. That is, you can do one or two things super well and with high quality, but you can't do everything with high quality. So then you're cutting corners somewhere, and then the question is where you're cutting corners.
Yeah. So what does the future of property management look like with digital assist or with AI assistants like Claire behind us? What's my day going to look like?
Yeah, I think that you're going to have this really nice space where the things that you shouldn't have to worry about and you shouldn't have to do heaps of heavy lifting to do, you won't have to do anymore. And look, Claire is a perfect example of that, because we can do rental arrears chasing up to 10 days. So, it'll continue to chase it and figure out what to do through a conversation rather than a notification, which doesn't get very good cut through because people just dismiss it. But a conversation means that people actually engage and want to be a part of it and say, well, I'm sorry, I'll pay that now, because I think they're talking to a human.
So is Claire doing like the Google hairdresser call on that, or what's she doing to have that conversation?
At the moment, it runs on SMS, so it's not a voice conversation.
Yep.
There, of course, is a roadmap in place that would potentially lend itself to different conversations that make sense in that space. Potentially not rental arrears chasing, but there are others that we're looking at. Mm-hmm. And even if you look at what Sarah Bell at Get Air's doing, and you look at the augmented experience of sales call list and interrogating data to get to a point where this is my 40 in my call list for today because it makes sense because I haven't spoken to them, they're in this area, and smart data filtering, then that's already a glimpse at what we're doing for augmenting AI digital assistant versus the everyday job of a transactional property manager. And I think that'll just expand, but I don't think that it'll expand to the point where human beings are out of the transaction or human beings are out of the service offering that you're providing. It'll just change the nature of the property manager and how they're actually doing it. So they'll be doing people focused. They'll be more on the phone oriented. They'll be service delivery people. They'll be making smart decisions with smart data, and the dumb decisions with the dumb data and the transactions that they shouldn't have to worry about should just be automated. It should take that load off them so they don't have to think about it. So an easier workload, I would have thought, a more enjoyable workload, and certainly that's the goal of Claire and Realm.
Let's just take a short break, and now a word from our sponsors. As a real estate agent, you know you need to be doing more content marketing, but creating posts for social media, creating videos and reports is hard work, lots of hard work, and it takes time. So that's why you need HomePrezo. If you're a typical agent posting 1 or 2 social media posts a week, HomePrezo can save you between 75 to 100 hours a year. How many more properties could you sell if you had that time back? HomePrezo can help you create engaging, informative videos about how the property market in your local suburb is performing. Plus, it makes creating suburb reports, rental videos for landlords, and social media infographics an absolute piece of cake. If you can type in a suburb or type an address, you can create a Prezo using HomePrezo in just a few minutes. Listeners to the PropTech podcast receive a 14-day free trial. Now that's twice as long as the normal free trial. So go to homeprezo.com.au and click the sign up button and use the code PropTech to get your extended free trial, or click the link in our show notes. And so does Claire also manage maintenance requests or like handling tenders or booking maintenance jobs?
In so much as that we collect the conversation, we understand the requirement, we understand what they're actually asking. We create a job in Vault or Property Me or whatever integrated software we're with. And there are a lot of software platforms on top of those platforms. So you look at, Maintenance Manager or one of those, they suck jobs straight out of Property Me. So for us, we would have the conversation, automate the task of taking those details and putting them into Property Me as a job and then releasing that if necessary. And so, it does a lot of that stuff, but we're leveraging already invested software. So where Property Me and Vault and all those guys have created a good core, we'll integrate and leverage that for the client because we don't think they should waste that investment.
Right. And so how long does it take to onboard her?
About 10 minutes. In total.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Pretty much.
I thought you were going to tell me 10 days or something, or 10 weeks.
We spend a lot
plug
of
her
time.
in and
Yes, no, we spend a lot of time getting that right. So literally it's a 3-step integration where they put in their company details, they put in the billing details, and then they put in the username and password. They click validate. We interrogate the database, make sure it's set up properly, make sure they've got all the details in there, make sure there's going to be no issues whatsoever, and then it goes live. That's assuming that their property management software has been set up properly. Now, there are some instances where it's a bit dirty data and we need to go back and say, well, look, you've probably got 30% of your tenancies that need proper data against their names. You need a few tags in there. We need to understand who your suppliers are. So they take a little bit longer. But in reality, in a perfect world, it's 10 minutes.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, so it's a true software as a service offering with an AI assistant behind it.
Right, okay. And from the work that you've done so far with the agencies that you've worked with so far, are you seeing it being, we've discussed that it's going to free up property managers to do more service-based stuff. Is it going to result in less jobs in the property management industry, or different kinds of jobs, do you think?
I think it frees them up for different kinds of jobs. You know, I don't think you replace human beings with AI. I think you make human beings smarter, more efficient, more capable, and free them from a lot of the pain points. I think that you make their customers better at self-serving through entrenched communication mediums, which is email and SMS and those kind of things, and make it easier for them to get services that is instantaneous. I mean, the amount of times I've heard property managers turn around and go, I went out to lunch for a friend's birthday, a colleague's birthday, for half an hour. It's the only time I've done it in the last month. And I came back, there was 30 emails saying, why haven't you answered my previous email that came 10 minutes earlier? So, you know, they're under pressure, they're stressed. Let's take some pain away. So that's really what it is, right? Like, it's not... And you need a human being to make smart decisions by looking at a number of stuff. We're not there yet. And I don't know that we ever will be. The human connection part of real estate is always going to be a reality, and it always should be a reality, because as soon as we lose that, I think we've missed a trick. I think there's a space in the market for somebody like Different, who uses a standardized app, and it's very, you know, structured in what they offer and what they don't offer, and it's low service, you know, tech enabled. And so that gives the opportunity for property managers and real estate agencies to be high service and high quality and highly capable, using human beings augmented with AI and better services. Yeah.
Cool. And so in the future, not just real estate, but looking at other industries where this kind of tech can go, what else is in your future? Are you looking at going to the US, or like what's the roadmap there?
There's a couple of conversations with a few partners that we're talking to at the moment who either have customers overseas or there are new ones that we're talking to in the UK and the States. And so very much within the next 6 months, we think that we will be overseas.
Right. But I guess your biggest impact is likely to be making renting great again, at the risk of...
Let's hope so. Well, look at some of the complaints that come out of property management. A lot of them were around the timely response to queries, questions, and issues, even if that was on email. Now, if I had an emergency, I wouldn't put in an email. I'd make a phone call, or I'd send an SMS or something. I'd have something that's a little bit more responsive as a communication medium. But often, 80% of all communication, this is the data that we got out of a number of our trials, 80% of all complaints that we saw documented could have been avoided through timely and capable, responsive, relevant, capable communication. And if that comes out of an AI first and is augmented with human beings, or vice versa, really, then that's a smart outcome for tenants and property managers. It means that there's an assistant in there that makes life easy and pleasurable and responsive, compared to the overworked and playing triage every day property manager.
So, Patrick, it's been fantastic talking to you. Thank you so much for introducing Claire to us and explaining how she's going to make renting and managing property a truly pleasurable experience again. And so thank you so much for your time. Long may she reign.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
So that was Patrick Hill, CEO of Realm and the founder of Claire, an AI for property managers. The work that's happening around AI is absolutely fascinating, isn't it? Already on the show, we've had Sarah Bell from AIRE and also just a few weeks ago, Sandy Moore from Our Property. There are lots of big things coming in this space, and it's only going to escalate. So much of the work that property managers do is absolutely overdue for automation. Macquarie Bank have identified that about 45% of the work done inside real estate agencies today can be automated, while research in property management, in the property management space alone, identifies numbers as high as 70% that can be automated. And so when you add the benefits to the customer into this equation, and let's face it, in the tenancy space, that's coming off a very low bar. But when you see how high that service level could become if we go down the path of automation and AI, the whole adoption becomes a complete no-brainer. Adopting this kind of technology is what gives us the tools to make customer service the centre of our businesses. And for that reason, I think it's extraordinarily exciting. My prediction is that in 5 years' time, we're going to look back at 2019 and wonder how on earth, but more importantly, why on earth we struggled to do it manually for so long. So do check out Realm. If you're a property manager using Realm, let us know what your experiences have been. We'd love to hear them. We've included information on how to reach Realm in our show notes below. So if you've enjoyed this episode of the PropTech podcast, we would love you to tell your friends and drop me a line either via email, LinkedIn, or our Facebook page. You can follow this podcast on Spotify, and we're now also on Google. I'd like to thank my audio support, Charlie Hollins and the fabulous Jill Escudero, and our sponsors Beepo, making outsourcing easy, and Home Prezzo, creating marketing content from your data. So thanks everyone, have a great week. Until next time, keep on prop teching.